Hello, tourist people. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hold on. Why do you not sound so loud? Talk again, let me hear you.
Clear now?
All right, good, good, good. All right. It seems that I came a bit early today. I forgot where I am. I am an hour ahead of you. So I need to make a note of that. All right. So, who wants to tell me how was study tour? Oh wow, don't hold back your enthusiasm. Nobody?
So the trip was it was okay. Um, a mixture of nice, a mixture of not nice, but I guess the ending was great because we get to go to amusement park nearby, and I went on a ride that's I risked my life, and went on a ride. It was not. I mean, it was okay, but I would not go back. But yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. How was the walking up and down? Was there a lot of that or
Sir, we did too much.
too
Yeah, the
much?
sun was real hot too. Like hot, hot.
uh anytime somebody tell me the sun too hot, I say, well, it would be a problem if it was cold. I mean, it was just a couple of weeks ago where I am and I look outside and the sun blazing hot and you go out there and you freeze. It's just something just don't compute. Sun's supposed to be hot, right? uh, well, I'm glad everybody was back in one piece, right? Nobody was left behind. Um, like that show, Home Alone, when everybody gone and leave the person behind, right? So I'm glad everybody is back. All right. So you are a pretty big step closer to reaching the end of your journey. At least for some of us. Most of us, hopefully, is the end of your journey. So we're just wrapping up now, right? What week is I think we're in that, right? Week 9. Need to check the calendar. What week are we in now? Let's see. According to my calculations, come on, calculations, where are you? There we go. Right. So no, we are in week 11. Yeah. Right before you guys left, I recalibrated my calendar, my schedule. And if you notice on the website, the schedule is updated, right? As I say, when I change mine, you get it exactly like how I have it. And that's when I realized that somehow, I don't know why this always happens in architecture, but we are it's a very tight schedule. And one of the main reasons for that is we have no class next week. Right? Because next week is Easter Monday, right? So but don't worry, I planned ahead for that, and I have a plan, and if we can execute that plan, you all should be good to go for the end of the semester. All right. My objective is to not have the last couple of weeks being so crazy for you guys, right? And yes, I did see the many pleadings for regarding the assignment 3, which is the physical camera, right? So we're going to talk some business in a little bit. But apart from that, we have a schedule that I think if we stick to it, we should be good. We should be good to go. We have really just one more assignment, and this one is easy. We're going to be tackling that actually today. Oh, I had sent out a message saying that we're gonna use Twinmotion this afternoon, right? Did y'all get that message, or did the message bearers eat that message?
Yes, sir.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to move right into the virtual camera now, because we're just about finishing with the physical camera. We're going into the virtual camera. We're going to do that this afternoon to kind of fast track things. Then next week we don't have class, and then the following week we're pretty much going to be tackling the final project. All right, so that is going to be our schedule. So the way how I have it planned out is that you should be able to deliver. You will have the Easter Monday that's coming to finish up your physical camera project, right? I'm hoping most of you got to capture the footage when you went on your study tour. If you didn't, well, you can capture footage anywhere. And also, you will also use that time to work on your virtual camera. It's gonna be a little different than the physical camera things. Don't worry, you don't have to go outside and stuff like that. We also want to talk about a class activity. And then we're going to just have a short lecture today, and that would be the first part 1. All right, so that is what we're going to deal with today. So first things first, as it relates to just to reiterate, as it relates to the assignment 3, you guys have until next week to do that. Good to go?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I have a
Yes, sir.
question though, sir.
Go
Good day.
ahead.
Yeah. So I went back on the site and it said of a building. So does it have to be like one specific building, or the frames can be of different things?
I would say of something related to architecture. So
Okay.
preferably, yeah, don't do like a goat or a
No. All the
Oh,
frames
sir.
I have so far, they're related to architecture, but it's just not of the
Okay.
same thing. So I was just
Yeah, that's
confirm.
fine. That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, it doesn't have to be the same thing.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Right.
because like afterwards I realized that it said one building, but we did like multiple different buildings.
Yeah,
and-
that's fine. Right.
Okay,
And
that's all
actually,
I want.
good. And it changes a little bit. It fluctuates from year to year, because in your case, you went on study tour. For some of the years, we actually go on a site visit to a building. You know, sometimes we go at the front to the guardhouse, sometimes we go around to the sculpture park. So, yeah. So that's why it's kind of written in that language. So yeah, can be of any, sculpture, a piece of architecture, detail, whatever it is. All right. All right. So yeah. So that is Monday for that. We are going to officially have a working class for the fourth and final assignment today. And we definitely have to squeeze that in today because we can't do it next week. Right? So after today, you're going to be on your own to finish that one. But don't worry, that one is not going to be due next week. It's going to be due like the week after. All right? But that's how we're going to deal with it. But the good news is that this one, we're pretty much, if you guys have an idea of how my working classes are, we pretty much almost do the assignment in class. So as long as you're here and you follow, plus you guys have the recordings, you should be fine. You should be fine. All right? I'm going to be using Twinmotion to demonstrate that. If you use Lumion, it's the same principle. I used to do both Twinmotion and Lumion, but in all honesty, if I do Twinmotion, you just apply the same thing in Lumion. All right? Because we don't have time to go through two software. All right. Okay. The 6th. There we go. Here we go. All right. Okay, so the last class activity you did would have been the infographic concept. Yeah, good. Your next upcoming class activity. This one is interesting. Anybody know about this event?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this one is easy. Easy grade. You just need to attend that class activity. But you can't just show your face. You have to speak to Miss Oti, and she has a little link thing on her phone. You just tell your name and she will just click your name on the thing and it will, bam, give you your class activity grade. All right. Actually, this one happened today, it was an interesting topic. Hiring people with artistic backgrounds make for more diversity and innovation in the workplace. That was pretty interesting. The good thing about that, it is recorded, right? I took the liberty of pasting the recording here. Where is it? Right, here it is down here. So you guys, you can come on the mirror board and watch it. That one is interesting. Especially, you know how it is in firms, you get persons that do maybe working drawings, but that's not the only thing you need to do. You need to convince clients, you need to appeal to people's emotion, you need to respond to culture and all these other things. So yeah, that's an interesting topic. Anyway, there are some other activities that is still happening. One of which that I want you to get is, you remember I told you guys, usually we do some kind of virtual reality activity as a part of this module. Every year we do a different like task. However, for this year, I'm not physically there, but the equipment that we normally use for that activity, I have actually sent that equipment to this festival. So Kamal Manboard, you guys know Kamal, right? He's a past student.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Right. So he's going to be there, and he would have been the one that would come to our class to do like the guest lecture. So it just works out that they're having the festival and he's going to be there. So I sent the equipment to him. He has all kinds of interesting ways of using VR. He will be doing some demonstrations throughout the day. I didn't get exactly a time, but definitely, y'all just need to show up at this event. Hopefully you're there when he's doing the activity. Ask him some questions about VR. There are 2 headsets there. Try out some of the apps. He might do some VR modeling there, so you guys can try that out as well, right? And I believe he's also showing his art exhibition, some beautiful pieces. I put a link to his Instagram video here so you guys can check it out on the mirror board whenever you get a chance. He kind of speaks about some of the pieces that he's working on, beautiful pieces. So that is looking pretty cool, right? So you guys should check out that event. And then there's a debate that's also happening. So it's UTech versus UE, and UTech is saying that technology is reducing human creativity in the arts, right? And I guess UE is arguing the opposite to that. So that one should be interesting, right? So that's another one that's happening. So all of these things are happening tomorrow and the day after. So just show up, see if you can find Miss Oti and just tell her, Miss, I'm here. Can you just give me my free marks for Advanced Computing 2 class? All right. And she will just, I sent her a link. She just click the link and find your name. Hope your name should be there. If your name isn't there, then when you come back to class again, you just talk to me. All right. Or just tell her and she will like add the name. Okay.
Wait, repeat that again one more time, please, so I can understand.
For this class activity, in order to get this class activity grade, you need to show up for this event. Right? It's going to be in the sculpture park tomorrow. Multiple things are happening. In order for me to record your class activity, you just need to see Miss Oti. I figured everybody know Miss Oti, right?
Yes,
she
sir.
will be there all day. She has a little link on her phone that I sent her. She will just look for your name and click that link to say you have attended. All right, and then that's how you get your participation grade. All right. By the way, guys, I did, before you go on study tour, I did give you guys a temperature check on how, well, not how you're each of you individually are doing, but how the overall class is doing. It's on the website, so you can see these are all the activities that happened so far. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activities, 6. So yeah, 5 activities so far. The Squid Games was the one that most people did, and the concept design for assignment 2 was the least that people did. If you want to find out how well you have been doing in the course, of course, you can always just check your grades here, and you'll just go over to this and you can just look for your ID number. If you're not seeing your ID number, it probably means that you may not have registered for the class site. Remember, this is something that we do at the beginning of the module, right? So if you haven't, just remember to check that.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
You marked assignment 2 already?
Yep. And how these normally go is, I mean, I will hope assignment 2. Okay, yes, I hopefully should get back to mark if you submitted after I marked. Remember that it's a percentage a day up until when the timestamp says that you submitted.
Yeah, I did submit on time. I was just wondering if I could resubmit, but it's fine.
Unfortunately, there are no redos. Then I would have to make everybody redo, right? And then I would have to hire you all to mark back everybody's work, right? But then I wouldn't be able to pay you. So yeah, right. Anyway, so that is some housekeeping for today, right?
Which assignment was that?
What assignment?
Yeah, what assignment were you just talking about a while ago?
Oh, that's assignment 2, right? Somebody was asking if I already marked assignment 2, which is the infographic in the architectural infographic assignment. Right? Okay, so speaking of assignments, as usual, let me do a quick overview. I love to do that every class so that you can know where we're at. Let's try and find this really quickly. Oh, sorry, wrong slide. Where's the thing? Here. Advanced computing 2. Here we go. Right. So if you guys, just to kind of keep track of where we are. Like that. Right. So we have assignment 1 and 2 that has already gone. You guys went on study tour. So we have assignments 3 and 4. You did 3 already, and which is due next week. And now we're going to jump into assignment 4. And then we have our final project, which ideally should have started from week 9, but I think we're in week 10. So we have a holiday that's going to be next week. So you get me, guys. This is why we have to kind of move quickly, because it just ends up that our class drops on a holiday, so we're going to lose another class. So that is just a reminder of the overview of the module. You're almost through the door. Almost there, guys. Hang in there. All right. So the last time we met, we spoke about cinematography in architecture, right? And we said that cinematography is going to be a combination of the technology, an understanding of lighting, and then an understanding of the art, the camera motions. And we looked at some examples and some photos. Hopefully you guys would have had enough that when you go out, you could take some nice pictures. There was one thing that we didn't get to touch though, just because of the nature of the study tour schedule, and that was lighting. So we kind of jumped over to this one because I had to prep you before you go on study tour. But now we are going to be dealing with lighting, with understand lighting for today, which is like the third part of this whole thing of cinematography, right? And we did look at some examples of what makes a footage cinematic, whether it's an image or a video. I hope you guys remember, we talk about the different cinematic camera movements and how we combine that with rules of composition, right? And any picture or any video that you guys are capturing from now on, that should automatically be embedded in how you capture that picture or video, right? Adams, you had a question? No? Okay. All right, cool. Right. So let's talk about a little bit about lighting, right? Now, this is going to lead us directly into the next part of this module, which is the virtual camera, right? And this is where a lot of us are going to be super interested, because when we talk about the virtual camera, we're talking about software. We're talking about Twinmotion, Lumion, Unreal, 3D Max, SketchUp. All of these programs, they have some means of showing you 3D vision of whatever you're doing through the lens of a virtual camera, right? And what we're going to do, we're going to apply the rules that we learned for the physical camera into the realm of the virtual. But before we do that, we need to have an understanding of lighting, right? And when I say lighting, whether you're dealing with rendering or you're dealing with photography, it's all about lighting. You guys ever look at a really good render and you say, wow, that looks so beautiful, right? One of my favorite ArchViz channels is ArchViz Artist. I call it Ava because it's a female that runs that channel, right? And I don't think her real name is Ava, but this artist. It's probably a lot of this. So yeah, you're looking for AVA, this one here, right? And I mean, when you look on some of the tutorials and things, I mean, this is primarily dedicated to archviz, and just like they have some great tips and all of that stuff. And like, for example, some of them talk about cinematic camera angles and things like that. And you look at some of these and you just say, wow, these are so beautiful, you know? Right? And a lot of the beginnings to get these kinds of images that are explained here is the same kind of things we're doing in this course. It's like the fundamentals, right? And a lot of that helps to sell whatever you're trying to visualize, right? Now, the other component of this is lighting, right? You have the camera at the right angle to capture everything great. But what about the lighting? And if you have an understanding of lighting in the real world, then it can help your 3D renderings to look much better because you know how light is supposed to work. You guys ever watch like a crappy 3D movie and you just say, oh, that looks fake? Anybody can give me an example of a movie like that? You should have many to pick from. Anybody? Nothing comes to mind?
So repeat as
Anybody ever watch a movie that had some really cheap graphics, you know? The explosions look fake and the 3D motion looks fake, right?
Sure, Twilight with the
Yeah,
robot
yes.
head baby.
Twilight with the which one? Hold on, is
The
that
robot head baby.
the Are there any Twilight fans in the class that disagree with? Anyway, I'm just messing with you. But okay, fine. So, you can have the right camera angle, but then if the lighting is wrong, and this is the interesting thing about lighting, you know when the lighting is wrong, but it's hard to pinpoint what is wrong with it. Right? That is the endless battle that every artist fight, especially if you're into 3D renderings, animations, and architectural visualizations, right? When you generate things that look surreal, that's fine. You can get away with it. You know, when it's like what we did in Advanced Computing 1, we weren't trying to go for photorealism. We were trying to go mainly for like a stylized effect for diagramming. But when you're trying to go for photorealism, you need to have an understanding of just how light works. And I can tell you a secret. It's hard to learn how light works when you jump in a software. For example, I'm just going to bring up, do I have Lumion open? No, but I have this project open in Unreal, right? And I'm going to show you this project later, but I'm just showing you that look at all these options over here. You know, there, you know, all sorts of buttons and knobs, and just like, oh, I can change the lighting. Where's my camera? Let me try and find. Yeah, I'm gonna try and get my bearings here. I was trying to find a camera. Let me just create a camera really quickly. Yeah, right. There we go. Right. So I have this camera here, and if I bring up my settings, you have all of these options here. Let me bring it up so you guys can see. You have all of these things here: aperture and ISO, and even if you go simpler, like you go into, for example, twin motion, and you know, you go over to your render settings here, you go over to your camera, right? You have all of these options, right? Exposure. You got the camera. You can change focal length, depth of field. You know, you have what I'm trying to get at is that when you're in the virtual world, you control everything. You're God. You can set the sun to be here. Everything is a dial or a knob that you can change. And that is its own kryptonite. This is one of the challenges why it's hard to get good renderings right off the bat, because when you jump into, you know, Lumion or Twinmotion, I mean, yeah, you have some templates there, but you know, to get the skill to let it look really, you know, realistic, it's hard to do when you just have a bunch of buttons and knobs. Now the trick is that in reality, you don't control the light outside. You don't control the clouds and the sun and all of that. So all you can control is your camera. And because you can only control your camera, when you try to take a photograph intentionally to bring out a particular thing, because you only have a limited set of parameters to work with, it lets you get good at working with those parameters. And as I say, if you learn how to do the physical camera, then you will learn how to do the virtual camera much easier, right? Unfortunately, we don't start architecture by doing photography. We kind of start, you know, you in second year, you jump into Photoshop and SketchUp, and you kind of jump into the digital world first. And it's really at the tail end that you start to like look at other things apart from the digital. But nonetheless, that is the secret sauce to getting really good architectural renderings, right? Is just understanding how lighting works, right? And how lighting works in terms of the sun and your lights, but how lighting works also in terms of your camera. So, second, did I fix my audio? Let's do an audio test.
The exposure triangle.
You guys are hearing the
Yes,
audio?
sir.
All right, good. Let's go.
The exposure triangle is the relationship between aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Understanding how these three elements work together will help you level up your photography, but it's essential to realize that for any given sensitivity level of film or digital capture, there's an optimum amount of light needed to deliver the correct exposure value. Aperture not only acts as a light valve, but is also critical to determining the depth of field of the image. ISO controls sensitivity and can affect noise. Shutter speed controls how long light is allowed to strike the sensor, which strongly affects how movement is captured. Together, all three elements work to generate an exposure value. This means you can't adjust one setting without directly impacting the other two. For example, if you decide to change to a slower shutter speed to create some blur, you might have to choose a smaller lens aperture or a lower ISO to keep the same overall exposure value. Learning to balance these three controls properly will up your photography skills.
Right. So what that is saying in a nutshell is that most of the times when we take a picture with our phones or a more simpler camera, all of this stuff is controlled for us, right? Which is fine. In most cases, when you snap a picture with your iPhone, it looks great. So, you know, no complaints there. The thing is, when you jump into Lumion or Twinmotion or some other 3D applications, you find that they give you things like depth of field, and they might not give you all of it like shutter speed and that kind of stuff, but they give you focal length, and some other parameters that mimic what's happening here. Now, for those of you who want to invest more into the visualization part of architecture, is the more you're going to have to know about how to control light using these, right? And what there's a simple application that I found that can help us to understand this, right? We don't have to get super scientific about it. There are some really basic rules, and I want you to check this out. There's this website. I'm gonna paste it in the chat. Let's see, where did I put it? Yes. Okay, which one of these? Let me try this one first. Is it working? Oh no. Oh man, that's the problem with these web tools. They don't stay online all the time. Hopefully this one. Yes, this one still works. I kind of like the other one though. But anyway, I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it in the chat, which I haven't been looking at. So yeah, okay. All right, Louis, I got your message. I just got your message. All right, so I paste the link in the chat. So what I want you guys to do is bring up this website. All right. And this will answer all of your questions. Because all of these values, you also find them in rendering programs, right? And I find that when you just jump in the digital world, you just kind of slide in those slider bars all over the place to get the look that you want. But you know, what exactly does aperture do? Like when I slide the aperture up and down, what is it really doing? You know, when I move the focal length, what is it doing? I mean, I can see what it's doing here. So no, you get through with the website, guys? Are you there? Tell me when you're there. Anybody got to the website?
So I'm not seeing a link in the chat. I'm not seeing the link.
Oh. Why? Oh, that's because I sent it as a direct message. My bad. There we go. Just give everybody a little chance to. All right, are we there?
Yes, sir.
Some of us? Okay. All right. Now, let me see the best I can explain this. Doesn't matter what camera you're using. They all have these values. It's just that some cameras allow you to edit these values and some don't. So the cell phone will only allow you to edit one of these. But if you're going Lumion, maybe you can edit all three. Definitely if you're going Unreal or 3D Max or give me another one, Blender, you can edit all of these. So what do? So let's say you have some birds flying. So the birds are in motion. It is a pretty average day. So there are some clouds in the sky, but it's not a clear day where there's just blue, and it's not an overcast day like rain is about to fall. It's just a normal day, right? Now, the shutter speed controls motion blur. The slower the shutter speed, the more blur in your motion. So don't trouble any of these just yet, but notice that when I decrease my shutter speed. Now you might notice that I'm pushing this value up, right? But how shutter speed work is that I'm increasing the time that the camera snaps the picture. So for example, if my shutter speed is low, then the camera does make a quick snap. But if my shutter speed is high, imagine the camera going like snap. You get what I'm saying? It's almost like you're slowing down the camera. So if you slow down the camera, you're going to get more blur, right? So you might see this kind of effect, like maybe like if somebody's running, and you might notice they're blurred, or a lot of times in architectural photos, we like to blur people or blur the cars.
Or if you have
Right.
an old phone, sir.
Or if you have an old phone, all right, that there's such a speed. I mean, not necessarily. Because in most phones or most capture devices, you can usually edit the shutter speed. Well, not all of them.
Sir,
So that is
isn't that what some
yeah,
of the phones do with the long exposure, sir?
exactly. So you basically slow down your camera so that if something is moving quickly and you have a slow shutter speed, then you're going to get motion blur. So you're going to get this streaking. And in some cases, you want to get the streaking, but in some cases, you don't want to get it. So I don't know if you were at I don't know, people are skating or on skateboards and you want to take a picture of them when they're doing a flip. Like you don't want to get motion blur there, right? But maybe you're here you want to get an idea of the speed of the ducks, or maybe you're taking a photo of a building and there are cars going by and people going by, and you don't want to get a person's face in your picture. You can slow down the shutter speed. Now, if you slow down the shutter speed, what are some advantage and disadvantage? Well, because the camera is slower, you have to hold this camera more steady, right? Because when the shutter speed is quick, when the camera just goes snap, you don't have enough time for you to shake the camera. It will just snap the picture. But when the camera goes snap, like in that, I don't know, 1/8 of a second, your hand can shift slightly. And that if you move the camera, your entire image is going to be blurred, right? Because your camera is moving. All right. There's one more side effect of shutter speed. When you slow down the camera, you allow the camera to receive more light, right? Because when you just go snap, it's like you only allowed a little bit of light to come into your camera. But when you go like snap, during that 1/8 of a second, more light was able to come in, which is why your image is brighter. So therefore, when you reduce the shutter speed, you notice how the ducks get nice and sharp here, but the image is the light is darker because your shutter is so quick that you're not allowing a lot of light to come in. So this is what the video meant before, that you can't just change one value and not affect the other. You get what I'm saying? If you want to get motion blur, so you say, yeah, man, I went slow down my shutter, then you have to hold your camera really steady and you're going to get double the amount of light coming in. All right. You guys following me so far?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
So
sir.
if you are in a program like, I don't think Twinmotion allows you to change the shutter speed. Well, yet. I don't know if Lumion has it. I can't remember. I barely use Lumion. But like, especially like, Cinema 4D or maybe something that's more advanced, you will see a shutter speed value. So, I mean, if you have a building and you want to blur all your car movements, I mean, you could just wait till you go in Photoshop and just, manually do it. Or you could just slow down your shutter speed in your 3D application, providing that the cars are actually moving. Just slow down your shutter speed and you get all the cars to be blurred, right? So this is another thing. All right, the next thing is the aperture, right? Now, this is the thing where most cell phones and non-professional cameras would be most limited on, right? Most cell phones, they just come with one f-stop value. You can't change this. You're stuck on that forever. So you can only adjust shutter speed and maybe ISO. Almost all phones, all camera devices, you can adjust ISO. Some of them you can adjust shutter speed, but definitely only the more, photographic ones, the ones that are more advanced features, that you can edit the aperture. So what the aperture does, and if you move it in this example now, what do you guys think the aperture is doing? Let's hear from somebody.
What was the question, sir?
When I move the aperture value here, what is it doing? I'm not moving the shutter speed or the ISO, just the aperture. What is it doing to the image?
Brightening, sir, like increasing exposure.
Well, yep. Any one of these value you change will always change brightness. But what is it? Okay, so for example, if I should say changing the shutter speed, what does it do?
Sir,
What is
the
its
aperture lets
superpower?
more light in.
That is half of the answer. You get 30% for that answer. All right, let me phrase it another way. If I ask, after you heard my explanation of shutter speed, and I ask you, when I change the shutter speed, what's the primary thing that it does? Who can tell me that? What is it doing?
Changes definition.
Give me a better explanation. It changes the
The
time.
time that the camera open and closes. I don't know,
Too
sir.
too scientific. Too scientific. Give me down to earth. What is the shutter speed doing to the ducks?
So in a sense, it makes it more defined, sharper.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fine. It makes it sharper or blurry. Yeah, 90% for that answer. So the main thing that the shutter speed does is that it makes the image, you get motion blur. You get a blur. I would rather say it does blur than does sharp. That's the better way of saying it. But, yes, it adjusts the light, but the main thing it does, it gives you motion blur. All right, let me leave that stationary. Let me go to the aperture. So if I ask you what aperture does, yes, it affects the light. Yes, it does. But what is the main thing that aperture does? What is its superpower? What is it doing to the image?
Depth.
Well, it changes the exposure and depth of field. Okay.
Okay, tell me what you mean. Like what is it doing to the image? Tell me in layman terms.
It gets brighter, more white,
Yes.
and then darker and clearer.
All right.
Sorry, that is the white spots and the black points there.
I mean, yes, it does those
The
things.
quality.
Sharpness. No? Okay.
Sir, I
You're
was
warmer. You're warmer. Yes, it has to do with sharpness.
And the background.
And it also gets blurry.
Ah, exactly. So if you put all of what you guys said together in a sentence, like, it makes the background
Blurry and sharper.
Sure, what
okay,
about
there you go.
focus?
It's still tied into focus. But essentially, what aperture allows you to do, and let me show you. So these are the birds there, right? Those are the birds. So here, I'm going to just take a, I mean, this is just like a small experiment. So it's not going to be super accurate, right? But it can still help us to understand this. So I'm going to take a screenshot here. And let me put this in that corner there. I'm going to max out the aperture now. Not too max, a little bright. I'm going to take another screenshot here. All right. Now let's put these guys side by side. All right. Why are you not panning? Ah, you're not moving. Why? Why not? Okay. All right. I guess that's good as we get it. So what's the main difference between these two images now?
The noise.
Apart from the noise. Apart from the noise. What's the main difference?
Definition.
What? The focus, sir?
Right, the focus.
Yeah.
The background is blurry. And whenever the background of an image is blurry, I mean, typically we say it look nice. It look like a glamour shot because that is kind of like what we try to aim for whenever we're doing photos or video. If you notice anything that looks cinematic, it has that focus effect, right?
So your
If I
eyes
should,
is all over the place.
right, so your eye not all over the place. So for example, let me just Google portrait photo. I don't have to Google. I have many examples in my repertoire. If I can find one quickly. Pictures. Let's see. Hopefully I don't find anything that's too incriminating. Pictures. No, come on. I have pictures somewhere. Come on, where is pictures? Ah, here are some pictures. I always use these ones here, so come on. Let's get this to be. Right. So whenever we take portrait shots, you notice the background? But then so your eyes get to kind of focus on who you're taking the picture of, right? In this case, it's me. So for example, you see like wedding photos, normally photos of people, you normally see have this effect where the background is blurry and the person is sharp, and it helps to just make the picture overall just more successful. But it also helps your eyes to kind of focus and not get lost in the background, right? So the thing that allows us to get this effect is called aperture, right? That is the superpower of what aperture does, right? So let's close this here and let's go back to our app here. There we go. So shutter speed lets it, gives us motion blur, right? So it looks like something is going fast because it's like, it's blurred out. Aperture gives us the ability to blur our background and let the foreground be sharp, right? So if I could adjust these by increasing the ISO, adjusting the aperture, and adjusting the shutter speed so that these birds are nice and sharp in the foreground, and then the background is blurry. Now, the higher the aperture, notice what also happens. Automatically, it lets in more light. All of these values, when you mess with it, it messes with light, So it's like saying, if you say that you want the birds to look like it's going really fast, so you increase the shutter speed, but you're also letting in more light at the same time. So then you're going to have to decrease your ISO or take the picture when it's cloudy. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Of course, in the real world, you don't control this top thing here. You know, if you happen to be on a sunny day, then fine. Luck is on your side. Your camera, if you happen to have a camera that, let's say most phones come at like f8, so you can't change this any at all, then you don't really have much control over the image. You know, some phones you can change the shutter speed, but now if you want to get it blurry, it will let in more light. So that's great. But if you want to get it sharp, it lets in less light. So therefore, you have to turn up your ISO. But what happens when you turn up your ISO too bright? Somebody had said it earlier. What you end up with?
It's 5 p.m.
That's right.
Right? But apart from that, you end up with, what do you notice with this image?
Noise.
It's noise.
Exactly. Noise is the side effect. So it's almost like saying, you know, you don't live in a perfect world with a camera. Like, see, something has got to give, right? So this is why when you have like a regular like mirrorless camera or DSLR camera, you have when you put your camera in manual mode, this is what you're doing. You are balancing this to get the effect that you want. If you want this image to be sharp, then you can lower your aperture, you can lower your shutter speed, and then increase your ISO or come back when it's nice and sunny. Right? It's like, you know, those are what you have to play with. Right? If it happens to be an overcast day, then you're out of luck. Then you're gonna have to get lights and other accessories. If you ever see the photographer walk around with these big light diffusers and all kind of things, it's because they can't control nature, right? But when you're in the 3D program, you know, you don't have most of these side effects because you can just adjust the sun how you see fit, right? And you don't get noise when you increase the ISO because, you know, it's like it's virtual, right? You know how everything is going virtual now, right? So so anyway, so this is just a quick demo, and this is not like super accurate, but this gives you an idea of what these three values do. And if you know how to manipulate light, then when you go into InMotion and you see these values, you're like, ah, yes, I remember sir say, if I increase the shutter speed, increase the shutter speed, then it's going to get more blurry, right? If I make the aperture more, the background is going to get sharper. The lower the aperture, the more blurry the background is going to be. So like in your head, if you know these things, when you're going to 3D application and you want to get a blurry background, then you're good to go, right? So so that's why I walk with this example here, right? All right, so this is a project I worked on. I'm going to show you what the end result looked like. A couple years ago, I just went for my file, right? And this is actually, where is this? This is in somewhere in Stony Hills, right? So this was a complete model, right? This program is called Unreal, but I modeled it in Revit. Yes, Revit, and then carried it into Unreal. Anyway, what I want to show you guys here is the camera, right? So for example, this program, this is the camera icon here, and this is a preview of the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two viewports. All right, I'm going to do two. Can you guys see the screen okay, by the way?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So I'm going to do two viewports, right? This viewport over here, let me turn off those lines, right? And the sky is looking gray, but you're gonna have to just ignore that for now because this is an old project, so I don't have all of the assets. But anyway, over here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose my camera. This is not something that you should memorize, by the way, guys. I'm just showing you an example. All right. So I think this is the camera. Two. Is this the camera? Two. Yeah, good. So in my viewport here, this is what the camera is seeing. Now I can move the camera around. So on the left-hand side, you notice I'm moving the camera. On the right-hand side, this is the actual camera, right? As I said, ignore the weird gray background, right? Now, if I wanted to, this is also weird. Now, let's say I wanted to take a shot of, like these two these two persons sitting here by the pool, right? Let me see if I can get a shot. Are these persons jogging here, right? And if the objective was, if you notice now here, everything is in focus. So, you know, you're seeing the car in the background and you're seeing the two persons jog here, right? But suppose you don't want to like have the background in focus. You want to focus mainly on the car, on the person jogging, right? Well, the same rules that we talked about now apply, right? So make this bigger. So if I can find my camera, all right. Okay, yeah, here we go. This is the camera, right? And I have my camera there. Notice that I have similar values. I have my aperture here, and this aperture says 2.8. Does anybody remember what does the aperture do? Brianna, what does the aperture do? Remember back to this? What does the aperture do? You there, Brianna? No? Brianna not there? No? All right. Let's move on to Horace. Oh, sorry, Taras. I just saw that you messaged me some answers. My bad. It was in the chat. All right, Alessandra, go ahead.
Sharpens and blurs the image. And it also controls the amount of, by controlling the amount of light that is
Right.
built in.
But I would more say sharpens and blurs the background of whatever you're focusing on.
Yeah.
Right. That's the key thing. So that's what the aperture can do for you, right? So in this case, I need to select back my camera, which is this guy, right? So in this case, if I lower the aperture, it's going to blur the background of what I'm focusing on, right? So but it's also going to give me more light. So you realize that it's being brighter, right? But it's blurring everything. So I would need to focus on what, in this case, these two people here, right? So, I mean, in our little example, we were focused on the ducks, right? But in this case, we're going to use these two persons here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back over here. Oops. Put that back here. Right. I'm going to go back over here. And here's my camera. So I am looking at the camera, looking at these people here, right? Right. So this is my camera here. So I need to focus on these persons. So in most 3D programs, it will have like some kind of target so you can know how far the focus is. Now in real life, you don't have like a floating target you can click on, but some cameras or even your phones, it has this little laser thing. You ever see when you take a picture and you see this little red light and it go tick before you can take the picture? Anybody knows
Yes.
of that. Right. And some phones have it as well. So that kind of determines how far your target is because there's a little laser that shoots out to say, oh, you're focusing on something that's, 5 inches away or 5 foot away. Of course, in 3D world, I mean, it's a little different. In this case, I can just, yeah, this has a ton of options. I'm just going to turn on this way to visualize my target, right? So right down here. All right. So you see this weird green cloud? All right. You see it's touching the people there. So that means that this is where the focus is, right? So I'm going to turn that off. All right. So now let's go back to my camera view. And what you notice, you see these people are nice in focus, but when you decrease the aperture, you are letting in more light. So because of that now everything is like too bright. So just like the example that I had before, I could reduce the ISO, or I could just play God and just say, I command the sun to just be a sunset, But let's not change the sun because we can. Let's change the camera, right? Because that's what we do in reality. So in this case, so I would look for my ISO, which is one of these options. There we go. And I will just lower my ISO, right? There we go. Of course, in 3D land, if I brighten my ISO, I don't get any noise, right? But, with your phone, oh, yes, you will get noise. Anyway, so now I'm lowering it now. And see, I've now balanced by the image. And in this case now, I have it where these persons are in focus. Now, suppose I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to focus on the architecture in the background and not the people. Well, the same thing again. I mean, if in real life, I would just angle my camera towards the building and then the little laser thing that shoots out would pick up the building. In 3D world, I would now go back to my camera and I would have to now put the focus. Let's put it on this building that's way in the background here, right? So that is where I'm focusing. Actually, let's make it nicer. Let me see can I focus on the building? Yeah. How about beyond the fence? Right. So I'm focusing on these buildings over here beyond the fence, right? So I don't want to focus on these persons in the foreground. So I aim the camera down there. All right. And oh no. Oh no, are you going to crash? Don't crash. Oh crap, it crashed. Okay. All right. But hopefully yeah. Welcome to computers, right? Anyway, but hopefully you guys get the idea, right? So I was going to also now show you in Twinmotion, it's a little different. You don't have all of that granular controls. And I think the same thing with Lumion, right? So, for example, well, we're going to actually do this in the afternoon session, right? But I can just give you a quick preview as we can, right? So if I put this ball in the background and oh no, this is going to crash too. Please don't crash. Oh boy. Come on. Are you guys seeing my screen, by the way? Have I lost you? Oh, this copy thing is here. All right. Are you seeing my screen, guys?
Yes, sir.
All right. Just checking that I haven't made Zoom crash. But Zoom is hanging in there. It usually does pretty good. Come on. Oh, this is scale. Let's make this bigger. There we go. All right. So there we go. All right. Now, if I wanted to do the same kind of thing here, slow down this camera. All right. Now, it's a little different in Twinmotion, but let's say that, forgot to save the view. Do like that. There you go. To the view, right? And I go to camera. Now, in this case, I pick the way our twin motion works. It allows me to pick the focus, which is just like that little laser light in the camera, or in Unreal, it's that green, that purple plane that you saw. So I can pick this down here. This becomes blurry, but the amount of blurriness, if I go back to what we just discussed, remember the aperture controls how blurry the background is in compared to whatever you're focusing on, or the foreground, depending, right? So in twin motion, when I see the word aperture here, I say, aha, I learned what Mr. Williams told me in class, and I know that controlling the aperture will either make my foreground or background more blurry. So can you see that it's getting blurry there, or less blurry? All right. Cool, guys?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, switch it around, right? Of course, in 3D world of twin motion, it's not doing those pesky side effects that you saw happening in reality. Because if I make the background more blurry, it's going to make my image brighter, and then I have to adjust the ISO and control the sun and blah blah blah. But in twin motion, it just says, you know what, guys, don't worry about all that stuff. I will just do everything for you. You just make the background blurry or whatever. And guess what? This is what most cell phones do. Like even the Apple and the good ones, because it doesn't have the ability to change your aperture. That's this guy here. Your phone only come at one fixed aperture, and that's it. You can't change it. But like twin motion, what it does some little tricks under the hood to make your foreground look blurry, and it's like internal Photoshop, right? And that's kind of what twin motion is doing. It's doing some internal photoshopping to get the background to be blurry, and if that's what you want, then fine. But maybe if you wanted to tweak it more, it depends on how deep you want to go in this thing of visualization, right? But usually this is good enough. If I wanted my entire scene to be brighter, I could there's no ISO in twin motion, so you would probably have to just change your image brightness, or you'd have to play God and control the environment, right? Which, you can make it morning or rain or shine, or you can make the sun be wherever and whatever month. Like this tab here is playing God. You're moving the environment. This is you're controlling your camera, which don't give you much control, right? But you could maybe also change your yeah, you would definitely have to change your environment. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So let's go back to our slides here. What time is it? Okay, we have a couple of minutes. All right, cool. So this was the example of how you control light, right? And like this is half the battle. Like if you know this already, you can set up some very nice shots, all right, for your rendering. Let's go. Come on. Hold on, what happened? I think, yeah, we have totally, I think we crashed PowerPoint as well. So let me close that. Oh, brother. Here, physical camera. Go here. Okay. All right. Where were we? We were here. Right. So in addition to, we're still talking about light, guys. So in addition to controlling these values here, which we learned that if you're using a complex program, it will have all of them. If you're using a simple program like Lumion and Twinmotion, it may have some. There are other things to consider. So focal length.
Let's talk about the focal length of lenses. Now don't confuse this with focal distance. That's the distance between the camera and the subject. The focal length is the distance between your camera's sensor and the optical center of the camera lens. It is measured in millimeters. Remember, the optical center is where the light rays that are entering the camera lens all intersect. What does it do for the picture? Well, if you have a longer focal length, the overall perspective will be reduced, the subject will be closer, and areas won't be as clear. The opposite is true for a shorter focal length. It will give you a wider perspective and overall be more focused. Here's an example. If you take a photograph using a focal length of 25 millimeters, as you can see, it shows the entire panorama and everything is quite clear. Now, if you take the exact same picture, but now use a longer focal length of 300 millimeters, you see that the perspective is now much smaller and some areas are more blurry. So the focal length will really depend on the type of lens that you use. For example, a fisheye lens has a focal length of 8 millimeters and a perspective of about 180 degrees, while other shorter lenses feature focal length ranges between 8 and 25 millimeters, with their view perspectives ranging from 80 to 110 degrees. These lenses are great for taking pictures of landscapes, mountains, and architecture. Now, if you need to photograph special events, parties, portraits, or just take a regular picture, standard lenses can do the job. They feature focal lengths between 25 and 85 millimeters, and a viewing perspective between 85 to 25 degrees. Finally, telephoto lenses feature focal lengths of 85 to 160 millimeters, with a viewing perspective of 25 to 10 degrees. A super telephoto lens can range from 160 to 600 millimeters, with a viewing perspective of 10 to 2 degrees. Telephoto lenses can be great for shooting sports, animals, or subjects over long distances, like the moon.
Right. So this is the other thing that we need to know about lighting, of course, right? So if the focal length have a higher number, that means you're seeing much more. You're seeing much less. If it has a shorter number, that means you're seeing much more. So let's look at an example of that, right? So if we have, we're going to open back this. Let's open this project here. Let's open this project here again. There we go. Right. Oh man, maybe I have too much stuff open. Hold on. Are we back? Ah, here we go. Yeah. Okay, guys. So here's this other project, right? This is just another project I worked on some years ago, right? So same thing. If I'm in Twinmotion and let's say that, where is that room? That room is down here. Right. Let's say we are in this small office here, right? And this is a pretty small room. It's probably about 15 by 15, right? Now, if I go to my camera, let's go to here. Let's create another view and let's go to my camera here. Now, remember we spoke about focal length, right? If I increase my focal length, then notice I'm going to be seeing less and less, but my image becomes less skewed. Oops. Oh, this is so much. If I decrease my focal length, then, oops. All right, this looks like a weird giant room. No, can you guys see that? I think we were, yeah, we were here, right. So for example, the iPhones, I think, has a focal length of about 6. So I don't know if you guys, well, those of you who have an iPhone, you ever put it to the lowest focal length and take a picture, and it kind of has this skewed look, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, here's the trick. And this is where cinematography, this is where the art now intersects with the technical, right? Your human eye has a built-in focal length of about 35. Right? So this is, if you guys notice, I can let's make this, can I make this larger? Maybe this. No, this is gonna go full screen. Yeah, it's gonna go full screen. Actually, wait, let me go see if I go full screen and go here. Right. Now, look, when I look around like this, do you guys notice that it looks a bit more natural? It's not skewed, right? But if I make it more telephoto now, if I go to 60, 80, right? Let's look at this one now. Oops, crap. I changed it by mistake. Hold on. Hold on. Where are you? Camera. There we go. 80. There we go. Full screen. There we go. Now it looks more like a portrait, right? So this is also not so natural because we don't, our eyeballs don't see so little. So what I'm saying is that the closer you go to what you see from your eyeballs, the more believable your images will look, right? And that has to do with the focal length. So for example, if I go to 35 and look at that, then, you know, it seems like, it more seems like you're there, you know? Now, I think pretty much all 3D application has focal length for you to change. So for example, Twinmotion has it. And if I go back to my project here, this was the one I was just in a while ago. It came back to life, but I think I lost the cameras, did I? Actually, no, here it is in the mountain. There we go. Yeah. So it's the same thing again. If you notice over here, in all of these options, yes, I can go between 4 millimeters and 1,000 millimeters. So for example, when you guys watch like a football match and you see like those photographers with those giant lens, those lenses is probably like about like 800 millimeters or something like that, right? Don't ask the cost of them. But of course, you can like zoom right into the pores of the players on the field, right? And that is how the focal length works. So in this case, this is what the camera is seeing here. Let me make back another, or what I'll do, I'll just change this to the camera. So this is what the camera the camera is seeing. And two current focal. So this is 35. This is what you see from your eyeballs. If I should pretend I was like one of those photographers at at a stadium taking pictures of the guys running on the field, or if I was one of those National Geographic explorer guys in the jungle trying to take a photo of like a tiger from far away. And I say, okay, let's make this 800 millimeter. All right. Then, I mean, I have to zoom out. You have to be way back. Like, this is how, I don't even know where I'm looking. All right, hold on. All right. This is how far back I would have to be, right? So that's what I'm seeing there. Yes, of course, I don't have the little laser thingy, so let me go to focus settings and let me focus on this. There we go. So I can stay far and I can see a lot. So I can look here. And this is at 800 millimeter. I could go higher. This is 1,000. I don't know how high cameras go, but I think like 800 and 1,000 is like crazy far. And of course, telescopes that see like to the moon, like those are probably like, I don't know, 20,000 or something like that. All right, guys. Are you following me so far? Any questions? Everybody
No, sir.
awake? Okay. Hopefully, I'm not putting you all to sleep because when you come back, we will be testing these out in in Twinmotion, right? Okay. So that is focal length. There is still one more to cover.
Exactly is white balance? To answer that, we first need to cover what color temperature is. First of all, every light source has a color. For example, sunset is warm and golden, while a rainy day might be cold and blue. Even the artificial lights in your home have a color temperature to them. Some bulbs might be warm and orange, while others might be cooler and seem more white. This color temperature is measured in Kelvin and ranges between 2000 and 11,000 Kelvin, with daylight being at 5,500 Kelvin. As you can imagine, different colors of light dominate in different lighting situations, and there are surfaces all around us that reflect that light. So, if you're pointing your camera towards a white surface that's reflecting blue light, your eyes might see it as a white surface, but your camera still sees it as blue light. Our eyes seamlessly adapt to the varying colors of light in a process that we don't even realize is happening. While cameras are amazing supercomputers and can probably calculate equations quicker than Einstein could, unfortunately they cannot replicate our eyes, and we need to tell them what kind of light they are looking at. Therefore, we need white balance, and to finally answer your question, white balance is the process of balancing the temperature of the colors in your camera so that we can represent light as accurately as it seems in real life. Does that make any sense? It's still pretty confusing. In other words, white balance corrects and balances color temperature that results from certain lighting situations. If a scene is too warm, your camera will cool down the image and add more blues, and if a scene is too cool, your camera will warm up the image and add more orange. Pretty cool, right? Let's get a bit warmer than that. Yeah. So back in the day, photographers had to measure the white balance and use filters over the lens to compensate for the light. Luckily, technology has moved along since then, and we're now able to have computers do the work for us. If you're just starting out, there's nothing wrong with throwing your camera onto auto white balance. It's actually very good. If you do want to switch it up though and get more creative, flip it onto manual so that you can really create moods and tones that you wouldn't be able to get in editing.
Right. So white balance is another variable to control with lighting, right? Now, as you say, most of your phones and all of that, it will auto correct the white balance for you. So if you go out on a sunset day and you take a picture, chances are your phone is just going to look like a normal day, right? Because your phone is always trying to auto white balance, which in some cases might be good, but suppose you want that nice warm orange color when you take a photo, right? So most, I think, if not all applications have it. So for example, in Twinmotion, I think it is in camera effects, and where is white balance? buried somewhere. No, it's not here. It's probably in effects. When you have saturation and contrast, actually, let's set it where you can do it in the environment, not in the camera. So I know you can. Where is it? Time of day. White balance, right. So you balance it in the environment. So it's almost like, again, Twinmotion wants you to play God, right? You can just say, I command the ambient light to be more orange and it gets more orange, or I command it to be more blue and it gets more blue, right? You know, it in your actual camera, of course, in real life, you can't control that, right? So in more complex programs, so for example, if I go back to Unreal here and I select the camera, where is it? It's here. Then white balance is somewhere buried in all of these options. There is so much, can be overwhelming. I don't remember where it is now, but it's in color grading and color temperature. Here we go. And here we go, temperature, right? And then we can control. But here we're controlling it in the camera, which I think is even better because you may not want the environment to be all blue. You might just want this camera to be more blue than the other camera, right? So, you know, it depends. You can still get away with this because in Twinmotion, you can save different views. So I can have one view here where I command everything to be red, and then I can just duplicate this where I command everything to be blue, right? And then I have two different, you know, views. So, you know, you can get away with it just as well, right? All right, so that is white balance, right? And that pretty much covers some of the key things that we need to understand about lighting as it relates to camera and cinematography, right? So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be doing a practical exercise when we come back. We're going to use Twinmotion. Hopefully we can get through it pretty quickly because you guys can always just watch the video if there is something that you missed. But we are pretty much going to run through what we're going to do for the final assignment, which is basically a repeat of what you did for the third assignment. But this time you're not going to use your physical camera. You're going to use a virtual camera from any application of your choosing. But in our case, we're going to be using Twinmotion. All right. All right, guys. So any questions so far?
Sir, for the assignment, the third assignment, we should upload our videos, right? Are we going to use the software to, you said we're going to show us the software to use to make it more still or something like that?
Yes, actually, yeah, that's a good point. We would have done that, but we have a holiday next week. So tell you what, let's talk about that when we come back for the afternoon session. Because the next class that we're going to have is going to be on post-production. And that includes like Lightroom, DaVinci Resolve, like you doing that kind of stuff, making your footage more smooth. And as you said that, I did remember that I did promise you guys that I would show you that before you hand in the assignment. But next week is a holiday. How are you going to do that? I don't know. Maybe I have to do a tutorial video. I worked out when we'll come back. All right. Thank you for reminding me though. All right.
All right, sir.
Yeah. All right. So that is going to be it for the lecture session. Right. If there are no more questions, then you guys can go ahead and download. Please download Twinmotion. By the way, let me just bring it up here. All right, yes. So to get Twinmotion, you need to go to the website. Most of you probably know this stuff already, but just in case some of us don't use Twinmotion, you need to go to Epic Game, or you can literally just type Twinmotion in Google, and it will come up. And when it comes up, you just go to download. When you download, it's gonna make you download the Epic launcher, and that's this program. The Epic launcher is pretty cool. I like to describe it as a place where you work and play at the same time, right? For play, just go to the store and you see all of the games, the cool games that are out, Fortnite, and they give away free games every couple weeks, and you can buy games and all that. That's the play part. The work part, if you go down to Unreal Engine, and up here you'll see Twinmotion, and this is where you would download. So you're going to download the latest one. It's the one at the top of the list, and it's the EDU educational version 23.2.2. all right, it's about 30 gigs, so it is kind of big. So please start now. On a regular connection, it should take you about half an hour, 40 minutes, hopefully, if you don't have it already. If you have an older version, doesn't matter, you can use it. All right.
For some reason, for the later version of Twinmotion, my path tracer doesn't work. Like no matter if things like nothing makes the path.
Only for the older version.
Only for the older version, but when I use 2022, like when I later the previous versions, it works.
Yeah, it's a driver issue, but it's fine. You don't have to use the latest one, because we're gonna concentrate mainly on cinematography, which is not based on like path tracing or rendering. And the animation that you're gonna do for the assignment, I wouldn't recommend use path tracing anyway, because it's gonna take too long. So yeah. All right, guys, so go forth and see if you can download the Twinmotion, and I'll see you back at 6, right? 6 your time, 7 my time, right? All right, guys.
Okay, sir.
All right, so I'll see you later.
So tired.